Councillor Lowe of the parish. HDC Councillor Lowe.
Okay, so subject to that amendment, then they okay as a correct record. Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2. Are there any members that would like to declare an interest in relation to any items on the agenda this evening? Councillor Goulson.
Declare a non-disclosable interest in item 3B, Yaxley as an award candidate and parish councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Slade.
I'm on planning for St Neots, which is item 4.
Any other declarations? Okay, we'll move on to item number 3. 3A, we're going to consider a report for St Neots, the erection of 2-bedroom homes and associated works. And I invite Planning Officer Ms Roseman to present that to us. Thank you.
Apologies, Chair. Technical error at the moment. Please bear with.
Thank you. Hopefully we're just sorting that technical difficulty.
Hello. So this application is for the erection of 2 semi-detached 2-bedroom homes with associated works to the western side of number 2 Queen's Court, Eton Soakham. This application has been brought to the Planning Committee as the Planning Officer's recommendation of refusal is contrary to St Neots Town Council's recommendation of approval. The proposal is recommended for refusal on design grounds, which I will outline in the following slides. It should also be noted that the Cambridgeshire County Highways have reviewed the plans and their comments have been submitted as a late rep. They are as follows. They have concerns that the proposal fails to provide a crossover for the proposed parking to number 2 Queen's Court and the proposed new access to serve plot 1. Notwithstanding this, Highways have recommended a number of standard conditions and informatives to be attached to any consent given to the application and therefore raise no formal objections to the proposal. The application site is to the north of Queen's Court in a mainly residential area of Eton Soken within the built-up area of St Neots. As you can see from this slide, the proposal is sited well outside the St Neots conservation area and there are no listed buildings within close proximity to the site. The site is also in flood zone 1. The site comprises the open garden to the western side of number 2 Queen's Court, which is an end of terrace dwelling. The site is located close to the junction where Queen's Court meets Queen's Gardens and therefore would be sited in a prominent position in the street scene. The host dwelling, number 2 Queen's Court, and surrounding dwellings are principally constructed in red brick with a tiled roof and its ridgeline parallel to the road. The proposal site includes a separate single-storey garage and shed, which lies behind an open strip of grassland currently used partially as a drive with an access from Queen's Gardens. Low hedging currently forms the boundary to the highway of this strip of garden land. This application seeks full planning permission to demolish the detached garage and shed to the east of number 2 Queen's Court. Sorry, that should be west, to the west of number 2 Queen's Court, and erect two two-bedroom homes upon the side garden land. The proposed dwellings would have pitched roofs with gable feature to the elevation fronting Queen's Court and another gable to the rear elevation. No materials have been proposed within the application. A new access is also proposed to the northern end of the site from Queen's Gardens to serve as parking for plot 1, with the existing drive with access from Queen's Gardens also a parking space for plot 1. 2 parking spaces are also proposed to the front of the site for plot 2. Furthermore, it is also proposed to convert the existing front garden of number 2 Queen's Court to provide 2 off-road parking spaces. This slide shows the ground and first floor plans of the proposed dwellings. Together, the dwellings would project 2-storey built form 9.1 metres to the east. Plot 1 to the left would have its frontage facing west towards Queen's Gardens. Plot 2 to the right would be adjacent to the existing dwelling and would have its front door facing south on Queen's Court. This slide shows the proposed elevations of the dwellings. The top image would be the view from Queen's Court next to the host dwelling, showing the front door and principal elevation of plot 2, while the below left image shows the front elevation of plot 1 annotated as a side elevation. Note the lack of chimney and bay window as found on the existing dwelling showed on the image to the top right. This is the site layout plan. I have annotated the roofs to show plot 1 and plot 2. The plan shows that the siting of plot 1 would project the built form approximately 7.4 metres forward of the established building line on Queen's Gardens to the east and would also expose the rear elevation and rear garden boundary of plot 1 to the wider street scene, which is considered contrary to the character and appearance of the wider area. The plan also showed plot 1's parking dominating the frontage of this unit, limiting opportunities for boundary planting to soften the development and provide a degree of privacy. The 5.4 metre rear garden to plot 1, shown on the right, coloured in blue, is also considered uncharacteristically small compared to adjacent dwellings. The plans also introduce a car-dominated frontage to plot 2 and the existing dwelling. Here is the location plan and a satellite view of the site. It shows the open appearance and indicates how prominent built form would be here forward of the established building line on Queen's Gardens, shown as a red dashed line in the image to the right. So this is a photo taken from the front of number 2 Queen's Court. The dwellings would be located to the left of this image. So this is going round. So this is a view looking into the front of the site from Queen's Court and moving further around. And this is showing the view of the site from Queen's Gardens. I don't know if you can see on that picture, but you should be able to make it out. You can clearly see how the proposal would, note the bay windows, covered canopy porches and chimneys which are omitted from the proposed dwellings. It is considered that these lack of design features result in development that does not accord with the prevailing character and appearance of the area. This photo is from Queen's Gardens looking north into the site. You can clearly see how the proposal would breach the established building line on Queen's Gardens. Please also note the lack of closed board fencing close to the pavement on the street scene. The proposal seeks to introduce a 1.8 metre timber fence 1.3 metres from the side boundary, which would not be in keeping with the local area. This is the boundary opposite the site on Queen's Gardens. While the hedging is tall and does not require planning permission, the timber fence is approximately 1 metre in height, which is considered appropriate to residential uses in this instance. This is the boundary opposite the site on Queen's Gardens. This is a view from the rear of the site from Queen's Gardens. You can see here how the rear of plot 1 would be prominently exposed on the public realm. So St Neots Town Council have recommended approval of the proposals, stating that it makes efficient use of its site and is in keeping with its locality. However, as outlined in this presentation, the proposal breaches the established building line on Queen's Gardens, dominating the dwellings and exposing the rear of plot 1 to the street scene. Plot 1 also appears contrived with an uncharacteristically small rear garden, car-dominated frontage and lack of soft landscaping. The 1.8 metre boundary fence would also close the open character of the area, contrary to the wider street scene. The proposal omits chimneys, canopy porches and bay windows, which are a common feature of the area. The proposal would also create a car-dominated street scene on the Queen's Court frontage. As such, the proposal is contrary to policies LP7, LP11 and LP12 of Huntingdonshire's local plan. The proposal is also contrary to the Huntingdon District Design Guide, the St Neots Neighbourhood Plan and the National Planning Policy Framework. The Planning Committee are encouraged to refuse the proposal in line with Officer's recommendation of refusal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have Councillor Daniel Laycock that is going to come and speak on behalf of St Neots Town Council. You will have 3 minutes in which to address the committee.
Thank you. It's actually a very quick one, as I know that the agenda is very packed this evening. St Neots Town Council Planning Committee met and discussed this application and discussed it in full. We looked at all proposals that was provided to us and we actually approved as your officer has stated, to obviously to approve this, which makes a sufficient use of the site and is in keeping with locality, and no other issues were raised by members. Thank you.
Are there any questions of clarification? Councillor Davenport-Ray.
Yes, thank you for your report. I was looking through the section on biodiversity, 7.36, and you mentioned that conditions could be set to secure biodiversity gain. If we were minded to approve, what would those conditions entail? Or what?
Councillor Davenport-Ray, could I just hold that for a moment, because it was just questions for our speaker. Is that all right to hold that? Okay, lovely, thank you. So there are no questions for you. Thank you very much. We also have a speaker, Mr. Simon Richardson, who is the agent for this particular application. Yes.
There we go. Good evening, everybody. I'm also mindful of your packed agenda. So what I propose to do is just firstly pick up on the county highways late representations. Firstly, obviously noting that they don't raise any objections. But secondly, the amended crossover to the front of the existing property that they were talking about has been confirmed to the case officer that that's a subject of a separate consent directly with highways. It doesn't need planning permission. It just needs... Sorry?
didn't confirm that.
Without eking into my 3 minutes, I can pull out the email where I sent you their confirmation of the reference. But it has. If you're happy to take that as a given, it has, and we can come back to that in the questions if you want me to find the email. And then secondly, if I just perhaps paraphrase my own letter slightly to the case officer in response to the report, which again didn't make it into your late representation, so you won't have seen this. So I started off by noting that any visit to the site, and I'm sure if you want to look at any of the photos, will show there's already car parking to the front of the existing property, and neighbouring properties have cars parked to the front as well as on street and on verge parking. I commented that the officer report noted there was no objections from the Town Council nor from any neighbours. You will also see that the application was the subject of 2 different consultation exercises, and that was no objections from any neighbours to either of them. The issue of building line, again, is very simple if a street is dead straight and there's no deviation or change. However, in this instance, we're talking about a plot on a corner of a street which itself curves around. So, it's not as simple as projecting a line from some properties on a street. The street changes. The site itself also has existing buildings on there which would be removed. I pick up on the report at paragraph 7.13 notes how the proposed homes in their different orientation would turn the corner. It says reflect the orientation and arrangement of the existing terrace on Queen's Court. I suggest that's an example of good design and an appreciation of context. With regards to the detailing of the properties, again, the way they turn the corner, the use of a gable feature, that's based on an understanding and appreciation of context. And in my letter I said, rather than attempting to crowbar in every possible architectural feature found within a locality, the proposals reflect the simple nature, design and detailing of the existing properties, with the gable positions and eaves detailing both clear nods towards elements of local character. And it's considered this is a much more honest and appropriate way to design in context rather than a Disneyland or Poundbury approach of tacking on as many features as possible. Mindful of the time, I will jump to the end. In essence, what you've got here are 2 relatively affordable 2-bedroom homes which would be provided in a context where they would sit very comfortably with neighbouring properties and the character and appearance of the locality. I'm happy to answer any questions, particularly if that relates to the biodiversity enhancements that could be provided there, but anything else. Thank you.
Are there any questions of clarification for this particular speaker? Councillor Davenport-Ray.
Sorry.
In the report before us, section 7.45, it mentions that neither bin or cycle storage has been demonstrated on the proposed plans. Has that changed at all since this report was written, or what would the plans on site be for cycle storage?
You're entirely correct. The plans are submitted do not show the standard cycle stores. They could be provided. And again, if we want to get into an email audit trail exchange, the question was asked, do you want us to amend the plans to show cycle stores, water butts, anything else? And the reply was no, that if permission's granted, they can be conditioned. And if not, then we haven't had to amend the plans and possibly go for reconsultation again. But they would sit, work and be accommodated very comfortably there.
Are there any other questions of clarification for this speaker? Thank you very much. So we will move on to questions of clarifications to the officer. Are there any questions? Councillor Jordan.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, could you just clarify about the highways, what was said again for us, so we could hear it just one more time? Thank you.
So I can read out the response because I've got it here.
Thank you.
So they've said the application is for the erection of a pair of semi-detached dwellings at 2 Queen's Court. The site layout plan on drawing number JLG 864/01 shows 2 existing parking spaces outside number 2, but as of October 2022, there was a garden with a hedge and no vehicular crossing. Therefore, a vehicular crossing will need to be provided. Also, no vehicular crossing Sorry, I find that really strange to say vehicular. Also, no vehicular crossing has been shown on the drawing to the new parking space at the north of the site. No dimensions have been provided, so that the exact siting of this may need to be changed to provide an acceptable distance between the crossing to number 15 Queen's Gardens and the new crossing. And then the highways officer then goes on to suggest some conditions.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Marie, for your report and presentation, which was very, very thorough. I just have a question on paragraph 7.16. It just talks about the arrangement of parking for plot 1 located to the rear of this dwelling. That reduces the depth of the garden to 5.4 metres. And it's described as an amenity space, but that's obviously a private space, isn't it?
Yes, so that's what I meant by that, private amenity space.
Are you suggesting here, then I probably should have read the LP12 in more depth, that this would it would have some impact on the neighbourhood? What would be
So it's
the reason for
basically the size of the rear garden to that plot number 1 is uncharacteristically small when you compare them to the size of the garden within the locality. No worries.
Councillor Davenport-Ray.
Yes, I'll just go back on my question from earlier. So in the section on biodiversity, you suggested that that's something that could be conditioned.
Yes.
If we were minded to approve, what would that condition sound like?
So the ecology would say something along the lines of, prior to any works above SAB level, that they must submit to the LPA and be signed off in writing that there are biodiversity enhancements on the site to secure a net gain.
Are there any other questions for the officer? In that case, we will move on to the debate. Who would like to start off the debate? Councillor Niche.
We could wait all night. Looking through the report, actually visiting the sites, I can understand where you're talking about from the building line perspective. Yes, it is curved, but actually, if you take it from a distance perspective, it's far forward from all the rest. I feel that comments like, well, there's cars parking on there already is not a material reason as to why by doing this would make it better. I mean, trying to improve something is not a material reason for planning. Having looked through it, I think it is a close call. I'm minded at the moment to look at it and think, actually, I agree with the officer on this one, that actually it should be refused. I think it's on a fine balance, but I'll listen to the rest of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davenport-Ray.
I think it's interesting to think about this application in terms of the neighbourhood that it's in and the design of the rest of the neighbourhood. The green space that currently sits alongside the existing property on a curve is very similar to several other junctions in that neighbourhood that are designed the same way, with a green space in the same place. So this does involve a considerable loss of green space, and also the feeling of openness at the intersection of the roads. That was my takeaway from visiting the site and reviewing the plans. But I'm interested to hear my colleagues' opinions.
Councillor Dew.
Thank you, Chair. Just echoing what I've heard from my colleagues, though, I tend to agree with that. I think also, if we look at the recommendation, which I tend to agree with, it's the massing and the siting of it that's important. What we're basically saying there is there's an overdevelopment of the site. There's too much going on it. It may well be, and it's not for me to say, that if a smaller application came forward that actually fitted within the boundaries more comfortably, it may not be such a problem. But because of the way it is, it picks up on the issues that were said. You lose the openness and the green feel about it, and whether you like it or not, it is out of line with the building line there. And once you start to break that, it can become habit forming. So I'm personally minded to agree with the officers on this one. I think it's it can be a close call to a degree, but I think actually it's one of those where there's too much being put on and leaving too little behind. If you look, for example, at the rear gardens, we've got quite a good map here of the areas. They've nearly all got quite sizable gardens. So introducing one small one, as has been quite rightly said, is completely out of keeping. So I'm minded to recommend refusal on this when you are looking for a proposer on it. Thank you.
Are there any other councillors? Oh, Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Chair. I think paragraph 7.22 on page 16 sums it up, and so halfway through that paragraph, it says unacceptable degree of prominence. That's from our urban design team, and I think it does really sum up, lists the local plan policies as well. That would be my reason for refusal. I'll happily second Councillor Dew's proposal.
Are there any other comments before we go to a proposal? No. So Councillor Dew, should we take your proposal for refusal, and Councillor Sanderson, your seconding? Can you all please show your hands if you are in agreement with that proposal?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's unanimously refused, Chair.
So that has been refused. We will move on to item 3B that is on the agenda. And this is an extension to a commercial property in Yaxley. And I invite Officer Kevin Simpson to come and present that to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So this application is item B, which is pages 25 to 48 of the reports pack, and relates to the extension to a commercial property to include a 2-storey front and first floor side extension, amendments to the material finish and fenestration of the building, installation of an external stairwell, and the installation of solar panels at 41 Mearview Industrial Estate in Yaxley. So next slide, please. Okay, this application is referred to DMC as the officer recommendation of approval is contrary to the Parish Council's recommendation of refusal. The application site is located within a built-up area of Yaxley and is in the setting of a number of other commercial buildings. It is not within a conservation area, there are no listed buildings in the vicinity, and it lies within flood zone 1, which means it has a low risk of flooding. The plan above shows the location of the building within the industrial area with the hatching across it. And the next slide shows an aerial view of the site. And the following slide reflects the location and the block plan of the property as it stands at the moment, with Mearview to the front and Willow Road to the side. And the next slide, please. So this shows the floor plans as they exist at present. So that's the ground floor plan and the section showing the small section of first floor that they have at present. And the next slide. So that shows a roof plan of the building as it stands at present. And that shows the elevations of the building as it stands. So the top left-hand picture is the frontage onto Mearview. And then you've got the rear view adjacent to that. And the bottom left shows the side elevation fronting onto Willow Way. And then that's a sectional drawing because it's attached to the dwelling, to the property the other side. Next slide, please. So this is the block plan showing what the building would look like with the extension added to it. And the next slide, please. And that shows the floor plan proposed. So you can see the ground floor. The top picture shows the undercroft parking that would be provided because it's just a first floor extension to the side. So it retains the parking beneath. And then the image below shows the first floor plans, the proposed mezzanine level, and you can see the proposed solar panels and stairwell on that image as well. Next slide, please. And that shows a general roof plan, again, showing the proposed roof of the extension and the solar panels and the stairwell. Okay, that shows the elevations as proposed. So you can see top left shows the view fronting onto Mere View, and then you've got the rear image adjacent to that with a stairwell added, and then the bottom left photograph shows the frontage onto side elevation onto Willow Way with the undercroft parking shown beneath, and again the sectional drawing from the adjacent buildings. Next slide, please. So this is a general view of the building, showing it from the direction of Willow Road, at the junction of Willow Road, standing on Mere View. Next slide, please. And then that's a view in the other direction, looking east along Mere View, with the application site to the left of the photograph at the end of the terrace of buildings. You can see there's quite a large degree of commercial properties in the area. Next slide, please. And that's another view from the rear of the site that shows the location of the proposed side extension, where the undercroft parking will be, and you can see the existing parking they have there in place, and the residential developments in the rear of that photograph. And then a wider view showing the access off Willow Road onto the site and the location of the proposed extension. And then that's a final view of the junction from Willow Road onto Mere View. And again, you can see the rear of the residential properties to the left of the photograph.